Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's council meeting. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm going to ask Councilmember Harrison to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. No items have been pulled. Can I have a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Councilmember Jones?
I just wanted to mention on the consent agenda, for the bid award, they went out, and I really want to thank staff for including the MWBE like we had discussed a few months ago or a few weeks ago. I just wanted to uplift that. But then I want to use this space to kind of tell the public and say, look, we have two contracts, one for $6.8 million and one for $1.6 million, that we need MWBE more participation. So please, there's a lot of participation to be had with the city. So if anyone listening would like more information, please reach out. I'd love to connect you so that we can continue growing that percentage up. So I just wanted to uplift that for a second.
Thank you. And as you know, we got the results from the disparity study. That's going to be a major focus.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, next we have the report and recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Good afternoon. Ken Bowers from Planning and Development, substituting today for Bynum Walter, who's off in England, and we're here anyway.
Well,
and I'm joined by Chairman, PC Chair Roberta Fox, in case there's any specific questions. So
there's no envy there. No.
So here's what's currently calendared afternoon hearing. We've got 4 rezoning cases on May 16th, and then we have the budget on June 6th, and the evening hearing, 1 annexation, 1 rezoning. So we're proposing to add for this. These are the items. I want to make a correction on the addendum to the first item. The applicant has asked for some more time on Z8022. Before the public hearing is scheduled. So I believe the request is the applicant here is to be to hold that and schedule the public hearing a subsequent meeting. They want to go to July 8th.
Which case is this, Ken?
This is Z8022. So let's go, this is the first one up. So this is at Corporate Center Drive and Play Golf Way. This is out by the Drive Shack entertainment complex there. South of Trinity Road. It's requested to rezone around 25 acres from Office Park with the Special Highway Overlay District to OX4. Conditional use, among the conditions, is a buffer along the highway that kind of replicates, or actually I think expands on the buffers required under the SHOD zoning. Planning Commission has reviewed this and recommends approval on a 7-0 vote. Again, I think the best thing, the applicant has said they wanted to refine the case a little bit, so they can't do that until they've received this report, which you've now received. But if you schedule the public hearing, that also kind of locks it in. So I would recommend that you hold the case, and this will be returned as a special item for scheduling the public hearing. They're looking for July 5th as the date. I don't know if we need a motion. Oh, here, sorry.
Good afternoon, Council Worth Mills, representing the applicant. Agree with Mr. Bauer's approach to hold this case, not set the public hearing yet, which will allow us to modify those conditions and come to you when the case is ready for a public hearing. So
Okay.
agree with that. Thank you.
All right. Do we need a motion of any sort on that, or we just move it?
I would suggest that you just move it and you set it by acclamation.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Next item, South Wilmington Street assemblage. This is an assemblage of multiple parcels on the west side of South Wilmington Street, located very close to a proposed BRT station on the southern BRT corridor, which I think everyone's aware is the next one in queue to move into construction once it's fully designed. The request is to go from a mix of CX3 with the transit overlay district, which was already mapped, to CX20. Planning Commission did recommend approval by a split vote. The opposed votes, among other things, desired some more specificity in the green stormwater infrastructure condition, which does promise 2 GSI devices, but does not specify their size or scale. So it's somewhat indeterminate how much of the stormwater load would be managed through GSI. Suggested public hearing is the evening of June 6th.
Do we have a motion?
Move for approval for hearing for June 6th.
Second.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay.
Excuse me, real quick, for the first item, Z8022, can you specify what date you would like it to come back as a special item? I might have missed that.
So if the council wishes to go ahead and place the item on an agenda for July 5, and I believe that was what was requested, that will avoid having to do additional publication.
I think, though, what
Well-
they've asked for is that we just
Yeah, I think they would
move it to
like.
June.
Well, let's go for June. Can you make it by June 6th? It'll come back as a special item on June 6th.
Okay.
That will give ample time to notice a public hearing for July 5th, but again, leaving the date, not scheduling the public hearing allows the case to be modified. And then once the hearing is advertised, then the case can't change until after the hearing is closed.
So it comes back June 6th.
Right. Great. Okay. Next item, Z123, 2.5 acres going from R4 to NX3 parking limit with conditions. Planning Commission also recommended approval 7-0 and suggested public hearing is June 6th.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, unanimous, clerk.
But one thing, Ken, before you go on, in the agenda materials, this is labeled as being in District B, but it's actually in District C. So just in case there's any clerical updates to make before it's before us again.
Thank you. So, next item, Litchford Road. This is request to zone 9.25 acres from R6 and IX3 to RX5. Planning Commission recommended approval 7-0. In keeping with our general recommendations for this case, seem to be very straightforward. So we're recommending a June 20th public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, that was unanimous, clerk.
Next item, the purpose of this zoning is to remove the parking limited frontage, replace it with some conditions. It's about 5.5 acres, but the base zoning district of IX3 is remaining the same. It also remains in the airport overlay district, so Planning Commission has recommended approval July 7-0, and we're also recommending June 20th.
Have a motion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, unanimous, clerk.
And then our last item with the same recommended hearing date, it's a parcel of land off of Kent Road at Stovall Drive. This is a little under 5 acres, currently R10. We go to RX4 parking limited. This is for an affordable housing project, and there is a condition requiring all the units to be targeting 60% AMI. And again, the public hearing date suggested is June 20th.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that was unanimous as well, clerk.
All right, great, thank you.
Okay, now we're on to special items. Are you staying up here, Ken, for that, or?
No, we have other staff to handle the special items. so thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is Z6722, rezoning it 7910 Skyland Ridge Parkway. and this is to schedule the public hearing.
Yes, ma'am, it is. Sarah Shaughnessy, Raleigh Planning and Development. So again, this is a request to rezone about 18 acres in District E near Briar Creek from commercial mixed use 3 stories conditional use and plan development to commercial mixed use 20 stories with conditions. The public hearing was closed for this case on April 4th. Since then, the applicant has submitted less restrictive conditions, so scheduling a new public hearing is required. Staff is recommending a public hearing date of May 16th. So just an overview of the changes since you last heard the case. The case, there's now a limit on residential entitlement to 1,000 total residential units. The cap on non-residential uses was changed to 3,000 square feet with specific limits on 150,000 square feet for retail and office uses respectively. Additional conditions require the development to comply with federal aviation regulations related to height and require approval from the RDU Airport Authority prior to obtaining a building permit. And then one new condition, revised condition related to affordable housing, requires that 2.75% of all units in the development be affordable at 80% AMI for no less than 10 years. And then just, excuse me, an aerial view of the site. As a reminder, again, this is out by Briar Creek in northwest Raleigh. Surrounding uses are mostly moderate scale residential with some office and commercial use. And Planning Commission did recommend approval of the case 7-0. Again, our recommendation, staff's recommendation, is a May 16th public hearing.
Okay. Any questions? Christina? Sorry, Councilmember Jones?
You're fine. I just had a quick question. I know the 2.75% in the first phase. Worth, can you help me understand the 5% that we discussed? And does that need to be conditioned now, or how are we getting to that 5% that we discussed?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. The previous condition had set aside 5% of the units built after the 400th unit. The new condition requires 2.75% of all units, regardless of whether they're built in the first phase or in a later phase. And the change in percentage coupled with the increase in units, I think that comes to an increase of 4 affordable units throughout the project.
Right. I just want I didn't understand. I must have misunderstood. So it's 2.75 in any phase. And I think that was where I was just trying to get to that 5, get that 2.25. But I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. So do we have a motion?
I would like to motion to set the public hearing for May 16th.
Seconded by Councilmember Patton. I got the sign before I heard you. So, all in favor? Aye. Okay, that was unanimous. Thank you, Clerk. Next is the Forestville Road Park Property Development Agreement.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I'm TJ McCourt from our Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Department. Staff from Raleigh Parks and the Urban Projects Group and City Attorney's Office have been negotiating a development agreement with the applicants of Z3822 for contributions to park master planning and schematic design for an undeveloped park property we have adjacent to the rezoning site. This is off of Forestville Road near the intersection of Forestville and Buffalo. Staff is recommending that we schedule the public hearing date for this development agreement to be concurrent with the public hearing for the rezoning itself for May 16th.
Okay. Do we have any questions on this? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, that
Thank
was
you.
unanimous, Clerk. The next item is agenda format revisions for public comment period.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm Taisha Hinton. I have the pleasure of leading the Office of Community Engagement. So just to kind of level set, to give you some history of how we got to this point for those who may not have been following the conversation around public comment, a meeting specifically for public comment. We started the discussion in January at your retreat. And during that retreat, if you may recall, the Community Engagement Board had a little bit of conversation with you about a proposed time minimum for public comment. That was the discussion at the point. They talked about wanting to help the public prepare for your public comment period back in January. It was in February where we had an additional touch point where the Community Engagement Board decided to put out a poll to the public to have conversations with them about their perception of our public comment period, their participation in it and such. February is also when you opened up a couple of community centers to nonprofit and small organizations. It was in March where I returned to you with the recommendations of the Community Engagement Board and presented the results of their poll, and you all had some more conversation amongst yourself regarding public comment and how you would like that to look. In April is when you all asked our office to go back out to the community and get some input around what time they would prefer the public comment period to start. The Community Engagement Board also met in April to have more conversation about this topic. And now I'm back today with the results of that second poll and then to present to you some options for your work session. So just really quickly, you all asked us to put the poll out in the beginning of, we got the direction on April 4th and to return to you today. It had two questions. It had one question, I'm sorry. What was the best time to maximize participation during the public comment period? They had the option to pick between 6 p.m. and between 7 p.m. The majority of respondents selected 7 p.m. Again, it was open from April 12th to April 28th, and we put it out through all the typical channels that we do to get the word out. I'll also add that the Community Engagement Board, during their April meeting, they did have a vote and conversation amongst it, and they had a unanimous vote that 7 p.m. Should be the start time for this proposed meeting. Really quickly to go through just some of the demographics you'll see here on the screen. And again, this information is optional for the people who participate in our online surveys. So that's there for your reference. So here are the proposed times that for you all to consider. If you would like to have this meeting that we're talking about specifically for public comment to begin at 6 p.m., then we have to look at what time to start the work session. So staff provided two options for the 6 p.m. So your work session could be from 3:30 to 5:30 or from 4 to 5:30. And you'll see there on the screen, it tells you how long the work session time would be and how long of a break you would have. If you opt to start your public comment meeting, which will happen on the second Tuesday at 7 p.m., you have the options for your work session to be from 4 to 6 or from 5 to 6:30. Then again, with the corresponding times for how long the session would be and how long of a break you would have in between meetings. Once you have that conversation here today, this could begin as early as June 6th. That would mean that your June 6th council meeting would only have public hearings and that this new meeting that we're talking about would begin on June 13th. It would include a work session and then a public comment meeting afterwards. So what we're asking for you today are three things. One, staff recommends that you select what time you would like the public comment meeting on the second Tuesdays to start. Then what time you would like to begin your work sessions. And then lastly, just an effective date for these changes. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Could you go back to the slide with the times?
Sorry?
Could you go back to the slide with the times on it, please?
Sure.
Councilmember Harrison.
Yeah, I just want to put forth 7 p.m. seems to be what is the desired time for 73% or so of our survey takers. So that's what I would go with for public comment. And I would prefer option 2, but I'm flexible there. And starting in June would be great.
So The work session starts at 5 o'clock? Is that what you're?
Be option 2.
So 5 to 6:30 for the work session, then a half an hour break, starting at 7. I'm absorbing. Councilmember Jones and then Mayor Pro Tem.
Just to throw in my 2 cents, I agree for 7 p.m. and option 2 is fine with me. I think it allows it. It also answers, I think Councilor Melton had talked about work and being able to allow time for those who work to get here. The only difference that I would have, I'm afraid that if we do it in June, it doesn't allot for a July time. So where we have right now 2 more options for night public comments, both in the first meeting in June and the first meeting in July, we would lose that. So I would ask for the thought of starting it after the break. That way we don't lose
September.
an option. Yeah, that way we don't lose an option for public comment.
Mayor Pro Tem?
So, I mean, the numbers, I did the math, there are 228 people selected option 7, I mean, the option for 7 p.m., 84 roughly for 6 p.m. of those in that time frame. We all know that's nowhere near scientific or anything like that, but with it being the data that we have in the community, I prefer 6 p.m. personally to start the work session. I'm sorry, to start the public comments, that being that of a young father. And, a parent, I'm married and we work our schedule, but the sooner means also the sooner that we can make sure that other young parents can get to their kids. So that's where I would prefer 6 p.m. I have a feeling reading the table, that's not going to be the one that's going to prevail. But I would say this too, I think option 1, even though a lot of our topics we seem to get done under an hour and a half, we've had some work sessions that we've used every last bit of it. And I think having an hour buffer between the two gives us that window, because if we go and look at the schedule that we have, we're booked full solid for work session for the rest of the year. And I have a feeling there's going to be more items to come, which means they're going to have to stack 2, 3, 4 items in a work session. And that hour buffer would give us that needed time, if we go over. So I would say option 1 for 7 p.m. is what I would prefer.
Councilmember Melton?
I want to thank you for doing this work twice, maybe. I also, however many times I went, I also really appreciate sort of the demographics in here. It's really nice to see sort of an even distribution of age in the respondents. And I hope that with providing some more flexibility for public comment, that we'll be able to pull more people into engaging with us on city issues. Personally, I agree with Councilmember Branch. I would have supported 6 o'clock, maybe even 6:30. But I acknowledge that the majority of the respondents were in favor of 7 p.m. This isn't going to be set in stone. And so if there is a preference to move it up earlier, we didn't poll 5:30, we did poll 6. Email us, let us know. We can make changes to this, but I would like to get the public comment moved to that second Tuesday and start that process, so we at least give ourselves some more room for the public hearings. And so I really don't have a strong preference between what time the work session starts. I mean, if we started it at 5 and we needed to go the 2 hours, I guess we could all agree just to not get a break. Everyone's frowning at me. For consistency purposes, it may be easier for now to keep the work session at 4. If we're going to do public comments at 7, because that's sort of what we've been doing, and that also would give all of us maybe an opportunity to have some dinner or something. So I'm just throwing that out there. But like I said, this is not set in stone. We've made changes to public comment, at least substantial changes since I've been on council twice. So let's just get this started and do tweaks if we need to. And I also think we should start it after our council break, because that gives a lot more time to implement it.
And educate people.
Yeah.
Well, I share some of what Councilmember Melton and Branch had talked about. I've been contacted by people maybe several years ago, young people said, you know, I have a toddler, I have a 1-year-old, I can come after work, but I can't get there at 7. And we talked about childcare, and they were like, well, childcare doesn't help either, because I'm dealing with a little kid who's going to cry, and I got to feed him and bathe him. And so my preference would be to start at 6, but I'm also going to say we can look at this and be flexible. But part of why we're doing what we're doing, too, is to be more inclusive. And if people are some young people are telling us, this is hard for me to get there at 7, then we're not hearing their voices. I would like to see us be more inclusive in our times, but, you know, as Corey said, I guess we can take a vote and go from there. Councilmember Patton.
Sorry, I just raised my hand. Yeah, I understand as a person who also has a young kid, I get it. And I would just offer to, like, we really want to hear from those people in all of the other ways that we're also reachable. So we have voicemail, public comment, email, social media. And so I'd definitely encourage all those people to reach out to us, you know, collectively or individually, so that we, you know, create sort of the sentiment around that. So, but for now, this is the data that we have. So I think we should move forward based on this.
I think I think there's a feeling, and this is what I was told, because I mentioned that, and they said, yeah, but there's more of an impact when you're in person, just for what it's worth. Councilmember Melton?
I was going to make a motion if we're ready for that.
Go.
I'm going to move to do option 1 at 7 p.m., so our work session from 4 to 6, public comment at 7, and to start after our council break.
So that would be 4 to 6?
Yes.
Work session, and then start at 7.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye. I'd also...
Their hand raised? Like, no? Okay. That was unanimous, clerk.
And I also just want to add, again, thank you. And let's be flexible. If it's not working, let's have the humility to acknowledge that we need to make some changes. And if folks feel very strongly that these times aren't right, please reach out to us. But, you know, this is the data we have now. And I think just getting this moved to the second meeting is going to be a net positive for everyone. So let's start there, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Taisha.
You're welcome.
Okay, next we have the report and recommendation of the city manager.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Today we have 3 items on the manager's agenda. The first of which is Erica Brandt from Housing and Neighborhood, and staying true to our commitment to affordable housing. Erica is bringing 3 projects through our joint venture rental development program to request your approval for funding.
Good afternoon, Council and Mayor. Erica Brandt, Housing and Neighborhoods. So I'm going to present today on our gap financing recommendations for tax credit projects that have applied so far in the fiscal year 23-24 cycle. So I'll start with an overview, just a refresher on our rental development program. I'll do a little summary of the proposals that we're recommending, and then what those funding recommendations look like, and then talk about next steps. So from a high level, the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program is a national program that produces the vast majority of affordable rental units in the U.S. And North Carolina, the state, gets a certain amount of tax credits to award to projects each year. So developers apply to the state for for financing through the tax credit for their projects. And then the city's role is to support these projects by providing gap financing or soft debt. And the way that creates affordability is that the equity from the tax credit program and the soft debt from the city and other gap financiers reduce the amount of hard debt that goes into a project, which means basically a bank loan that has very firm annual or monthly repayments, usually higher interest rates. And that kind of debt service for the bank loans really determines what the rents have to be. So if there's less debt service, the rents can be lower, and that's how the affordability is created. So the three projects that we're bringing forward for you today are up here on the screen: Birch and Branch, Lake Haven, and Hampton Spring. Two of these projects have actually come before council before. The two 9% projects, and the little icons in the corner indicate whether they are a 9% tax credit or a 4% tax credit. And just a refresher on that, the 9% tax credit projects get more tax credit equity per project, but that process is competitive. So not every project that applies to the state will get funding each year. Wake County usually only gets a handful of 9% awards each year. Whereas the 4% projects, such as Birch and Branch, get less equity for the project, but they are it's not a competitive process. So both Lake Haven and Hampton Spring have come before council in the past, and they have received funding commitments, but they did not get 9% awards in the years that they applied, so they are now reapplying to the state for funding. So I'll kind of walk us through some of the key points on each of these projects. Birch and Branch, the 4% project, is targeting families. It's got 180 units, including 36 units for supportive housing, and the rents range from about $500 a month to about $1,800 a month. We're recommending $4.5 million in city funding. And then both Lake Haven and Hampton Spring are senior projects. They've got 56 units each and include 14 units of supportive housing each, and the rents on both projects range between $450 and $1,000 a month. For Hampton Spring, we are recommending $1.5 million in city funding, and for Lake Haven, $1.05 million. So in total, these three projects will create 292 units of affordable housing, and we're recommending a commitment of a little over $7 million in city funding. So this map shows the locations of the projects. You can see the green icons represent our two 9% tax credits. Hampton Spring is on the west off of Buck Jones Road, and Lake Haven is more to the north. And then Birch and Branch is the blue icon down in southeast Raleigh. And the yellow, kind of orangish background there represents the affordable housing opportunity area. So this is an area that's identified in the city's affordable housing location policy based on data that gets updated every couple of years. And it's in line with federal best practice around affirmatively furthering fair housing. So the idea is to try to promote and encourage development of affordable housing in areas that don't already have a lot of existing affordable housing and represent opportunities for more affordable housing. And you'll see that both the Hampton Spring and Lake Haven are located within that area. Birch and Branch got an exemption because it is located on a high frequency transit line. So hopefully you all can read this. It's a little faded on the screen. But this just shows our available funding for this program. You'll see that we have about $18.5 million available, which does include some of the funds that were previously committed to some of those projects that have come before council before, Hampton Spring and Lake Haven. So in total, we're recommending $7.05 million for the three projects, which will leave about $11.4 million available for future commitments. And we do expect to receive several more applications for 4% projects, which we leave our cycle open until the end of September. So we're expecting that we will have demand for that $11.4 million in this calendar year. So our next steps here are to approve the conditional commitment for these three projects. And then the final applications for tax credits are due to the State Housing Finance Agency on May 12th. And as part of that final application, the developer will need to include a conditional commitment letter from the city for the gap financing component. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions? Councilmember Harrison?
Yeah, thank you so much. Could you go back to the map with the affordable housing, opportunity area? I was just curious for 1, 2, and 3, these sites, are these all in the qualified census tracts designated by HUD? Do you know?
I am not sure. I believe Birch and Branch is in a qualified census tract, but I will say that there is a little bit of kind of tension between our affordable housing opportunity area and the qualified census tract. So that is a qualified census tract HUD designation is kind of looking at some of the opposite factors of the affordable housing location policy. So it can be a little bit tricky to find a spot that meets both criteria.
Yeah, no, I like seeing this map and that it's more expansive than the way that HUD is designating. So I guess I'd just be curious to know in the future how we're able to incentivize those kinds of affordable housing projects throughout the city in this area that you all have designated. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Patton, then Mayor Pro Tem.
Thanks for this presentation. I was curious if you could go back to the slide with the unit mixes. Do you know the unit mix in terms of like number of bedrooms for any of these? Particularly, I'm interested in the family housing.
Yeah, I don't know it off the top of my head, but I can get that to you. We've got that information.
That'd be great.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I just want to say, thank you for the work that's being done to continue to drive the commitment for affordable housing. We obviously know the need. We can only approve what's presented before us. So hopefully we can find more developers, more people interested in doing affordable housing at these lower AMIs. But this is what's presented before us, and with that, I move for approval.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that was unanimous, Clerk. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The second item is being presented by Christopher Valenzuela from Housing and Neighborhoods, and he will bring forward the Public Project Community Support Fund, which we're all still trying to get used to that as opposed to the Equity Fund. He will share with us some of the impacts on the community and the neighborhood from our first round.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name is Christopher Valenzuela. I'm with the Housing and Neighborhoods Department. And my presentation this afternoon will be a brief update on our Public Project Community Support Fund, also known as PPCSF. PPCSF, it's a little tongue twister, but we're going to go with PPCSF. All right, so this is my agenda for this afternoon. Cover some background and provide an update since our last council update in February, and then talk about our next steps. So as you may recall, staff brought an update to council just this past February on the PPCSF. And the purpose of these funds are to support businesses and residents to offset impacts of large-scale public investments, such as the New Bern Avenue Bus Rapid Transit Corridor, or BRT, and Dix Edge Study Area. Originally, our Housing and Neighborhoods Department was allocated $550,000 to activate 3 pilot programs. And after our first round process, $125,000 remained within our neighborhood stabilization category. And since our last update to council, the city has received 5 applications for neighborhood initiative funds and has awarded contracts with Carolina Common Enterprise, Raleigh Chamber Foundation, and El Centro Hispano. In addition, since our last update to council, staff has issued a letter of interest solicitation for the remaining neighborhood stabilization funds. That's the $125,000 that's remaining. And as a result of that process, we received 17 proposals from the organizations listed on the slide. Staff further evaluated the proposals based on the criteria listed in our letter of intent, or LOI, such as program design, program metrics, and organizational capacity. And as a result, Southeast Raleigh Promise had the highest scoring proposal, which includes a combination of workshops and partnerships with the goal of serving 50 residents with impactful services within the eligible targeted area. So, next steps, staff recommends funding Southeast Raleigh Promise for the remaining $125,000 of neighborhood stabilization funds. And with that said, that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? Councilmember Patton?
Surprise, it's me again, always with the questions. Thank you for this. Could you tell us a little bit about some of the projects? I'm not familiar with every organization that's listed here who requested the funding, so can you tell us a little bit more about some of the projects that were proposed but not selected?
Yeah, I mean, there are a combination of technical assistance, some business counseling, business training and development. I think a lot of the organizations really honed on that. I think there's an emphasis on that, especially within this targeted geographic area. So that was a common theme that we received in there. So,
cool.
Thank you.
And you gave us an idea that program design was part of what helped you select Southeast Raleigh Promise, but could you go into a little bit more detail about what set them apart? And
Yeah, they're the only organization, I think, from all the organizations that submitted proposals that included the real engagement. They're actually targeting 4 neighborhoods within the targeted eligibility area. They're going to do everything from having what we call neighborhood champions, those that have a stakeholder emphasis within neighborhoods to go out there and get community engaged, get the residents to come to these workshops that they're going to conduct. And then they're going to have a portfolio of services ranging from home repair assessments to financial education and foreclosure prevention, also predatory property acquisition prevention, and some other caveats in there. They had the most robust application. They unanimously scored the highest. We have a very, very detailed evaluation criteria, which is included in there. And so it was a unanimous, scoring decision, and that's what we're bringing forward to council for an update. So,
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much for your work.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated.
And the last item today is a contract and budget amendment for Gibson Play Plaza, located at our Dorothea Dix Park. So we have the tag team of Priscilla Williams and Kate Pierce presenting this item.
Thank you, Madam City Manager, and good afternoon, Mayor Baldwin and members of council. As the city manager stated, Kate Pierce and I will provide you with a presentation this afternoon to offer additional context and background for today's robust agenda item. As indicated, staff requests your approval for the city manager to execute several contracts and agreements, to accept a generous donation from Martin Marietta, and to approve the budget amendments and transfers. And here is a site plan of Gibson Play Plaza. This slide provides an illustration of the project development from 2020, when we started the design and pre-construction services and acknowledged the donation from the Dix Park Conservancy. Now we're into construction management and administrative services, along with your prior acceptance of GMP1, and we're bringing GMP2 today. This project is unique in that it creates a park on the location of a former hospital. The construction manager at risk delivery method was utilized because it is a proven, effective delivery method for more complex and complicated projects. Some of the projects that have successfully utilized CMAR delivery within the city of Raleigh are listed here. And it is worth mentioning that the East Civic Tower project is also being delivered using CMAR. Project delivery during and post-COVID continues to be challenging. The State Construction Conference reported escalation rates at 14% over the last 2 years. And this translates to 32.58% increase in bid prices from 7/2020 to December 2022. Increases in subcontractor pricing for roofing and plumbing have reached 20.5% and 14.7% respectively over previous years. Record delays in materials and difficulty in finding skilled labor in the subcontractor market continue to plague on-time deliveries and bust project budgets. We're experiencing the same right here, with many of our bid prices coming in significantly higher than we originally estimated and having to rebid several of those packages. Value engineering options identified to reduce project costs were changing the stone quarry, selecting different light fixtures, and other adjustments to finishes. Our original project budget was $67 million. Our current proposed project budget is $73 million. We have a stormwater contribution for the utilization of GSI at $750,000. And our revised budget gap after value engineering and partial use of project contingencies is estimated at $4.9 million. At this time, I'm going to pass it over to Kate, who'll talk about this slide and finish the presentation.
Thanks, Priscilla. So we've presented the cost side of the equation, and now we're going to talk about some potential funding options for your consideration. In working with multiple departments, we looked at how to close the project budget gap without severely impacting the program or experience of the Play Plaza project. There are 4 different funding sources that we're putting forward. The first is using facility fees from Area 3, which Dix Park is in, of $1.1 million. The second and third are reallocating existing Dix Park funding from the 2022 bond. These 2 projects are looking at reallocation of some money that was going to be used for an operational headquarters, and we figured out a different strategy there. And then using $720,000 of the allocated $3 million that would go into a full operational upfit and money for public-private partnerships. The third is in working with the Dix Park Conservancy, we have requested and have received agreement on an additional $1.5 million to add to their $20 million donation, which would require an amendment to their existing funding agreement. So this would close our project budget gap and keep the project moving in terms of being on time and on schedule. So this money would be used for a variety of things, and I'll point these out. The first is that we would move forward with the Guaranteed Maximum Price Contract, GMP2, for the construction manager at risk at $32.3 million. We would also amend the designer's contract for additional $400,000 for additional bidding services. And we would also need to amend the 2022 funding agreement with the Dix Park Conservancy to account for this additional $1.5 million donation. The other piece that we're putting forward is Martin Marietta, which is has numerous local quarries, has agreed to donate 5 boulders and aggregate at an estimated value of about $415,000. You can see the rendering of what one of these boulders will become in the future of the park, a pretty cool fountain. And we're asking for your acceptance of this material donation. So there are a number of actions required to move on this, including the approval for the city manager to move forward on amending both the construction services and the designer services contract, and also the authorization to negotiate the funding agreement with the Dix Park Conservancy. We're also looking for your acceptance of the donation of the Martin Marietta materials and approving all of the corresponding budget amendments and transfers, which are outlined in your memo. So we're happy to answer any questions. We know this is a lot of information and are here to answer questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Jones?
Thank you so much. I see that a lot of the funding is already in the bond package. Can you go over the facility fees? Where does that come from, and what is affected by pulling that from that pot of money?
Sure, and I'll ask Stephen to join me as well. There are 4 regions in the city that open space fees are allocated. Open space fees are allocated on new residential development. So the idea being that when a new residential development, whether it's multifamily or single family, there is money allocated to then go to creating new parks and open spaces. And the monies have to be used in the district in which that funding is allocated. And so with the creation of Dix Park and the additional residential development that's happening, we thought it was a good use of facility fees to keep that money within the district to fill the funding gap here. But I'll let Stephen add anything additional.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'd add a couple of other items. Is you can't use facility fees for renovation or for maintenance, so it has to create new capacity. This doesn't zero out all of our facility fees in that district, so we still have capacity left in the future. And when we looked at proportionally within a approximately $70 million budget, this was about 1% of the budget. So we looked at all available resources and thought this, although $1 million is a lot of money, moving this into a project that's creating a lot of park capacity was a good recommendation.
And just a follow-up question to that, in that district or zone, I think it's mentioned as Zone 3 in the notes, what other parks are part of that grouping in Zone 3?
I don't have them. There's probably about 15 or 20. I would have to bring that list back to council, and I could also bring back what the residual would be left over as well. Having 150 parks, I don't know everyone in that district.
Right, and I think more so than the specific parks, I'm just wondering, how does this affect anything that they wanted to do? It's a lot of money to give to one park that got a very large chunk of the bond, and I just want to make sure that we are equitably making sure that all parks are served in that district. And I know that's what you're doing, but I just want to bring that up so that we can talk about it.
Yep, noted. Thank you.
Councilmember Patton?
Yeah, I echo Councilmember Jones' concern, and she asked a lot of my questions. Some follow-up ones I have. I just want to clarify, when you said a $70 million budget, that's for just the Zone 3 parks?
No, the Dix Park project, Gibson Play Plaza, is roughly $70 million with these changes. Adding $1 million in facility fee would be adding less than 1% of the entire budget. So relatively speaking, we wouldn't be moving all the facility fees there. It's a smaller portion of the project budget.
Got it. So then reversing the frame, how large is the facility fee budget, and then zooming in, how much goes to Zone 3? How much is this $1 million of the Zone 3 allocation?
We'd have to bring that back to you.
Okay.
Yep.
Councilmember Harrison?
I'd like to accept the donation of rocks. Can I motion that forward? I think that's a great donation and contribution from Martin Marietta, and I really appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to more boulders in the park.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we can break this up. I have just like a little bit of heartburn about this facility fee and concerns on the impacts of the other city parks in the program, and I'd like a little bit more information before I'd be ready to cast that vote, but I'm happy to move forward the rest of the recommendations if that's possible.
Could I make a suggestion, because I know there's a true sense of urgency with this? Could you go back and do some research? Let's put this on hold. Let's get through the rest of the agenda, and then have you come back to us with an update.
Make sure I'm clear. You want to know how much residual we have, and then what parks are in that district. Answering two questions.
That's what I'm hearing.
A few questions. So what parks are in Zone 3?
Yep.
How much of the facility fee would be allocated to Zone 3 collectively?
Yes.
And then the $1.1 million is what percentage of that proportion?
Yep. Got it.
When you're,
capture them all?
we'll continue, we'll just put this on hold for now, get your questions answered, and then when you're ready, when you have that info, just kind of give
Will
a
do.
wave. We'll fit you in.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions before we jump on that to get information back to you? Okay.
So thank you, Kate, Priscilla, and Stephen for that item. And I won't say it concludes my report, because it doesn't. It pauses my report until we have some answers for you guys.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have matters scheduled for public hearing. And today we have rezoning Z7221 on Lake Wheeler Road.
Good afternoon. Hannah Reckow, Planning and Development. So as a reminder, for this item, the hearing is open, and most recently the case was deferred to allow the applicant to make some changes to the conditions that staff had concerns with the particular language and the enforceability of them. They have made those changes. So to highlight those are condition 7 relating to notice to residential tenants. There's some changes in language for enforcing the condition, but the intent remains the same on that one. And then condition 10 on affordable housing, what has been amended. So it will require 30 affordable units to be constructed on the site. And if the property owner does not construct those units, they may pay in lieu a fee of $40,000 per unit. So that's the summary of the update for this case. As a reminder of the Planning Commission vote, and I can answer any other questions you have.
Okay. Do we have any questions? Councilmember Jones?
From the Planning Commission on the 2 dissenting votes, can you help me understand what their issues were?
Yeah. Yes. The 2 members who voted against that recommendation for approval had concerns about the inconsistency with the vision themes, the vision theme growing successful neighborhoods and communities. So the theme there is the relation between the height and uses and the current area.
Thank you.
Councilmember Harrison?
And can I just get some clarification? So when Planning Commission was looking at this, my understanding is they were not considering the Dix Edge area study at that time. So thus their consideration around heights and scale were based on the prior comprehensive plan, which we did amend a month ago.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just one.
Okay. Councilmember Patton?
Can you, for folks who watching at home who aren't dived into the backup materials, can you tell us when the affordability will happen?
Sure. Let me pull up that language. So the affordable units would, according to this condition, need to be established at or before the first certificate of occupancy is provided, and that affordability is specifically for 10 years for households making no more than 60% of area median income.
Awesome, thank you. I just wanted to highlight that because I think that's appreciably different than some of the other conditions we've seen where the affordability happens after some sort of threshold has been achieved. So I just wanted to lift that up and highlight it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, this has been before us in public hearing. We're waiting for conditions to be submitted. Those new conditions have been submitted. I am going to close the hearing, and do we have a motion?
Yeah, I have a motion. I do want to talk about this case just a little bit. This is a large assemblage located in a really dynamic area of District D. It's taken me a lot of time to think through this one. Currently, it's mostly zoned industrial, which is not a preferred use so close to downtown. The Dix Edge area study, which we adopted last month, envisions this area as an emerging urban center and urban corridor with flexible uses. I really appreciate neighbors who have been engaged in this process. I know that they have made this case better. I'm happy to see that setbacks have been added to the Maywood frontage to provide transitions to Carolee and Carolee Mills. I also appreciate the neighborhood transition zone on the north side adjacent to Fuller Heights. I do want to note just some of the community benefits that are going along with this rezoning case. There is an array, and I do believe they are meaningful. There are items like bike share stations, public art that we see in some other cases, but we also see green stormwater infrastructure, a contribution to the Walnut Creek Corridor Fund, a pedestrian path. The peak stormwater runoff leaving the site is for the 25-year storm, which is an improvement from our existing regulations. There's also a minimum of 300 parking spaces for public use, which will be helpful for Dix Park for special events. And then finally, the property owners are dedicating at least 30 residential units for low-income households at 60% AMI. Those units, as we just heard, are going to come as soon as the first issuance of occupancy. So 1% of the total number of units will be issued as each development occurs. And it will always be rounded up, so there will never be less than 1 unit coming on as it starts until we get to 30 units. Alternatively, they can contribute for our Affordable Housing Fund, $40,000 per unit, which would be a total contribution of $1.2 million. So for me, what I'm looking at in this case is the form and the scale. Does it coincide with the Dix Edge area study? I believe it does. And then the community benefits, I see them as being diverse and meaningful. And thus, I do motion to approve this rezoning case.
Do you have to read the consistency statement?
Yep, 1 minute. Okay. I move to adopt the proposed consistency statement dated May 2, 2023, contained in the agenda materials, and to approve the zoning amendment with the adoption and effective dates described in the agenda item under recommended action. This approval is also deemed an amendment to the future land use map to the extent described in the adopted consistency statement.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that was Councilmember Jones in black in opposition. Right, thank you so much. And I want to acknowledge you, Councilmember Harrison, for your hard work on this. You poured your you poured your heart and soul into this and helped move things forward. And all of the community benefits you mentioned they are meaningful. And so thank you for getting us there. Okay, next we have the Comp Plan Amendment CP 223 for the Midtime Beltline Crossing alternative.
Yes, this is a city-initiated request to amend the comprehensive plan, specifically the street plan and the area-specific guidance for the Midtown St. Albans area. So some background to this request. The Midtown St. Albans area plan was adopted a few years ago, and one of the plan's 5 big moves was creating more crossings for I-440, specifically calling out a multimodal bridge connecting Barrett Drive and Navajo Drive. Staff has started the work to prepare that project for a time when there's funding. So they have conducted an alignment study looking at specifically where that connection will occur. They did include public engagement. So as a follow-up from an alignment that is different from what's on the street plan, this request is looking to update that guidance, city guidance, where it does exist on the comprehensive plan. So there's 3 places. The first is the street plan. This is what is currently in the plan. The 2 purple dashed lines are the proposed crossing of I-440 and extension of Waketown Drive. The proposed change to reflect the new alignment would look like this, connecting the alignment that was chosen does have a roundabout, but that is sort of beyond the detail of the street plan, so this is how that alignment would look. And then there are 2 policy maps in the Midtown St. Albans section that also do reflect that crossing, so the amendment would update it there as well. And then finally, an action in that section that references a future alignment study, just indicating that that study has been completed and was completed in this year. So a number of consistent policies along the lines of increasing connections and increasing multimodal connections. And as I mentioned, I don't think I mentioned, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of this. So that concludes the overview. I can answer any questions you have.
Okay, do we have any questions? Councilmember Jones?
Thank you so much. It's not really a question. It's I just want to highlight the community engagement that happened surrounding this plan, and thank the neighbors and the business owners who some are here today for your participation and your advocacy in this plan. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Okay, Councilmember Patton.
Yeah, not looking for a super specific answer on this one, but I hear you saying there's no funding for this bridge. Can you, is this in the single millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions?
Transportation staff can help you with that.
Great.
Good afternoon, Kenneth Ritchie with Transportation. High-level estimate, probably somewhere in the $30 million range, just based off of high level today.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, I will open the hearing. One person has signed up in support. No one has signed up in opposition. Is Cynthia Curran here?
I had sent a presentation. Okay, hello. Thank you. My name is Cynthia Curran, and along with my husband, John Webb, we own Aarons Creek Properties, and we have 4 office condominium units at Barrett Square office condominiums. We are in support of the proposed amendment, and real quickly, I'm going to go through real quick the 3 maps of the 3 alternatives that were presented to the citizens as part of the city survey. And the first option for the proposed bridge would have taken the bridge straight through our office condominiums, and there are 80 office condominiums with 80 small businesses, so we were in opposition to alternative 1. The second alternative, which is the one that's been proposed here for you today, will actually take the bridge through a vacant lot. And so we had been in support of that, and the citizens of the city also voted overwhelmingly for this option. And this particular option, alternative 2, has a roundabout, which helps with traffic. The third option offered by the city on the survey also went through the vacant lot. It just doesn't have the roundabout. So we had presented to the city and the Planning Commission, everyone was very receptive, that we believed alternative 2, taking it through the vacant lot, was the most direct route. It avoided the condemnation and demolition of 80 office condominiums. It preserved the city tax base of $9 million for the office condominiums. It crosses Big Branch Creek only 1 time instead of 2 times, which is more environmentally friendly and better for the critters in the creek. It has the best traffic flow because it has a roundabout, so there's continuous traffic flow. It protects small businesses, which the website says are the heart and soul of Raleigh, and it protects Big Branch Creek, which the Raleigh website says Raleigh has adopted a mission to protect the streams. It's also consistent with this city council action in December of 2020. When you originally adopted the Midtown Plan, you had 3 main bullet points. You wanted to avoid condemnation of the buildings and improvements. You wanted to avoid condemnation of businesses. You wanted to avoid multiple crossings of Big Branch Creek. And you adopted as part of that, this is straight out of your minutes, the map on the right. It was in the minutes, and that is exactly what this new plan is doing. So we support this. We hope you'll accept it. We thank you for your time, and we thank you for your consideration.
Okay. Councilmember Fort has her hand raised.
Before you step away, so with the vacant lot, have y'all worked something out with that property owner?
That property owner has asked to rezone, and it's coming before the commission on May the 16th. And as I understand it, the Transportation Department and the Planning Commission asked that this be placed on your agenda before that rezoning came forward, so that it would be clear that if you approve this, that the street plan will already be on that property before the rezoning comes forward. And to my knowledge, the developer has not objected to this. He has stated he attended both of the Planning Commission meetings and did not object. Anything else?
Any other questions? Councilmember Jones?
Great work, Cynthia. It's been amazing getting to know you and working with you and making sure that your voice is amplified here. So I appreciate your participation in this.
Thank you so much, and I thank you all of you.
I just wanted to say, very nice presentation.
Thank you.
The critters in the creek. That was cute.
I grew up on a farm, so I'm concerned about the critters in the creek. So thank you.
Loved it. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to close the hearing. Do we have a motion?
I wanted to motion. Go for it.
I'm going to remind everybody again, please raise your hand so I can recognize you. And Councilmember Jones had her hand raised and was moving forward, so let's follow the protocol.
I was just going to say thank you, but go ahead.
Thank you, Cynthia. I got to meet you during our community meeting that we had back a couple months ago now, and you brought this to my attention so eloquently. You did it again here tonight, and I'm glad everything kind of came to fruition in the way that works for you and your businesses. So with that, do I have to make a specific statement, or can I just say I motion to approve the proposed?
No, you simply move to approve.
Yeah, I move to approve the proposal.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that was unanimous, clerk. Thank you. Next, we have the report and recommendation of the Economic Development and Innovation Committee.
No report. We have 2 items pending. The first item, the Economic Development Roundtable with our HBCUs. We will be hosting that roundtable at our meeting this month, which will be May 23rd at 1:30 p.m. in council chambers. The second item pending is the stormwater management regulations, and I anticipate we will take that up in June.
Okay, thank you. Growth and Natural Resources.
I know we have a meeting this month. Apologies, I can't remember exactly what we're going to talk about.
Omnibus
Of the omnibus text change.
Thank you, yes.
Okay, Safe, Vibrant, and Healthy Community Committee, we have no items in committee at this time. Transportation and Transit.
No items pending and no meeting.
All right, now we have the report from, before we start that, are we ready with some of the, I'm seeing the fist up in the air. Okay, good work. All right, this hearing is still open, and.
Hearing, I was not rezoning anything.
Yeah, no.
So there's, including Dix Park, there are 28 parks in Facility Fee Zone 3. Would you like me to read those? They're predominantly...
I think that the new council members who asked about this were curious.
Sure. Yep. It's Windermere, Beaver Dam. Remember, these are small and large, some of them. Mary Bell Pate, Eliza Pool, Lenora Street, Compiègne, Spring, Carol Lee, Isabella Cannon, Pullen, Cowper, Edna Metz Wells, the Rose Garden and Little Theater, Method, Chamberlain, Kentwood, Pollock, Fletcher, Peach, Kaplan, J.C., Powell, Carolina Pines, Latta, University Historic Park, Mount Hope Cemetery, Lake Johnson, Dix Park, and Raymond Linear Park, and Walnut Terrace. Those are the 28 parks in the facility fee zone. And thank you to my peers in finance and budget. In this facility fee district, there's roughly $2 million. We would be using $1.1 million, leaving a residual of $900,000 in this facility fee district this fiscal year.
What is the funding normally used for?
It's a great question. So we use it 2 primary areas. One is we pay down our debt service, and I don't want to get outside my boundaries with our CFO, but we also use it to match projects where we are creating new things. Remember, we can't repave, we have to build new capacity. So that was part of the reasoning, looking at we're creating a very large opportunity for people to come to Dix Park. Dix Park is contributing to some of the housing stock nearby, and we felt it was appropriate to use a portion of those fees for that. So, answer your question, Mayor, pay down debt service and to create new opportunities in the park system.
Okay, Councilmember Melton.
I think I heard someone call this out, but the 2 million, that's what's in there for this fiscal year, but it replenishes.
Each time a new residential development, either a house, condo, or apartment is built in Raleigh, we collect an impact fee called our open space facility fee.
Okay. And you just said this, but I'm in my mind trying to think through this issue, and there's a lot of development that's happening in this area now, and I would say almost all of it is being spurred by Dix Park. And so what I'm hearing is the Lake Wheeler Road project, for example, the rezoning we just approved, when they break ground, they'll be paying into this.
That's correct.
There's a bunch of stuff right now that I think is getting ready to break ground along Lake Wheeler and Saunders. They'll pay into this. And, I think we have an opportunity, if we can get Dix built and built the way we know we want to get it built, it's going to generate so much money for our city. And as far as a city goes, really the only revenue we have is tax revenue, and the amount of money that Dix Park is going to generate that we can use for housing and infrastructure and parks, and then in this specific zone, all of the development we know that's going to come online that will replenish this fund is mostly being constructed because of the park. And I think for that reason, I will support this.
Councilmember Fort, and then Mayor Pro Tem.
Excuse me, so I just want to clarify, you can't use any of this money for maintenance issues, okay?
You cannot.
And you and I had a meeting with some folks at Method a few
That's
weeks
correct.
ago, so we may have
Yes.
to talk offline about how to utilize some of the rest of the funding.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Also, the funding, I heard fiscal year. So that means this funding, roughly the 2 million has to be allocated by the end of June, correct?
No, we have to, it's currently what we have collected.
Okay.
So next fiscal year, working with planning and finance and budget, we'll look at the projections based off of some of the zoning cases that have recently been approved. What is the projection for future fiscal years?
Okay. Funding for future.
So we currently have 2 million.
Okay.
So next year, we will sit down with parks and budget and finance. What does FY25 look like based off of development and growth? So
But for FY24, that's already, I'm just trying to understand because we're in FY23 now.
Mhm.
So
and what we
I'm trying
currently
to understand.
This 2 million is what we currently have right now.
Okay.
Yep. Correct.
Yeah, if you
Yes.
could.
So I think it's.
And I
think
also
it's-
see the city manager.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Councilmember Branch, I think your question is what happens with the remainder of those funds if they're not expended by the end of the current
Correct.
fiscal year? Yes.
And we could bring a list of projects forward.
Good afternoon, Allison Bradsher for Finance. So this is a life-to-date fund, so those funds stay in fund balance until they are appropriated either as a part of the budget or a budget amendment, which is in front of council today. Hopefully that
Okay.
clarifies.
And the budget would be for something new. So any new project that came forward.
That's correct.
Got you.
That's correct.
I'm sorry, last part. Are there any current new projects planned in Zone 3 other than Dix and Method?
That's a quick on the fly one. New capacity, meaning we are building something new that would generate new opportunities based off of a quick review of these 28 parks. I really believe it is Method, Latta Plantation, and Dix Park.
Okay, thank
you. Like a trivia question.
Councilmember Black, did you have your hand raised?
Yes. I think Mayor Pro Tem Branch kind of got to the first question I had around what other sort of capacity building projects are happening in Zone 3. I think the Gibson Play Park is kind of cool. I drive by it all the time, and I'm like, oh, what are they going to put there? But I do think as far as where the funding could flow for future endeavors. Like I really want us to think about equity, and I understand Councilmember Melton's point around this park is driving a lot of the development we're seeing in this region. I'm concerned that with the development that we're seeing in this region, it's not hitting people at an equity or diversity lens, where multiple people at multiple different economic back points will be able to live in this area. So I'm just trying to make sure that we have park equity when we're talking about like investing in places and where people can have like safe green spaces and fun places for their children to be. And so I think, you got to it with me asking about the method, or you talking about method in the other two parks. So I guess the forward thought would just be, let's think about them and other ways that we can build capacity with facility fees in other places besides Dick's in the future. But I think for this point in time, I would be in support of taking that money for the park. Yeah. For this park, the Play Plaza.
Councilmember Jones?
Stephen, can we go through the parks bond and how much this park has received through the parks bond? How much money?
I would have to step away and look at our Parks Bond brochure really quick.
Sure. I just remember having been on the parks board, it was, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, from what I remember, it was $35 million for Dick's Plaza, or for Dick's Park.
Roughly.
And then that was matched dollar for dollar?
No, it is roughly $2 for, so 1/3 of the cost roughly has been borne out of philanthropy.
And then we got $12 million from the previous council, right? And then we had $10 million from the Gibson family and $2 million from Truist Bank, right?
We have 21, if you accept the donation today, you'll have $21 million from the Conservancy for Construction. That does not include the $4.5 million that they paid, roughly $4.5 million they also paid to design Gibson Play Plaza. So they have roughly $26 million, not including programs and all the other contributions. So they have roughly $26 million contributed to this.
Right. And I guess that without specifics, what I'm trying to just emphasize is that there's a lot of money going to this park, and I love it. Love the park. But we have a lot of parks. And for me, especially impacting the facility fees, I understand moving money around that's already been allocated in the bond. But for me, it's hard to stomach pulling from the potential from other parks to get whatever that is, whether it's facility. I understand it's not for maintenance, but for whatever they need. So I just wanted to make sure we can put that into context, how much money is already going here, and making sure we're making an equitable decision, even if it's just $1 million. I mean, $1 million out of the 67 or whatever, the $1 million for this park. How many other parks do we have that we spent $67 million on?
I think the closest will be Chavis. We are spending roughly $54 million, and we just spent over 20. So, that would be the closest comparison.
Okay. I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Councilmember Harrison?
Yeah, thanks so much for bringing all this information. I was listening to the parks, and I'm guessing most of them are in District D and C, is my guess. And from my understanding, you were saying new projects, new builds are expected, as I know, in Method, and then Lotta Park,
That's
as
correct.
well as Dix Park. And those are all three in District D. I do want to do a shout out to Lotta, because I was with the Friends of Oberlin Village on Saturday. We had an awesome barbecue, great band, good times. And so I think obviously they are also a park that is in need of these kinds of funds, as well as Method. I hear they may be looking for a splash pad. So that's the gossip. And so I really appreciate everyone bringing up the equity concerns here. I completely get that. And I'm glad we're having this discussion. I think the outsized, expenditures that we have to come, that will come because of Dix Park, are also partially because of the size. It is 308 acres, and it is a new park. So for me, this is something I do want to support, but I also want to continue to have this open discussion about where these funds come from, where the more, again, the opportunities to make commiserate investments across our park system. And I know you're with us on that, Stephen, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion to approve this budget request, if that's okay to do at this time.
So it's all three items.
Yeah, there's a series of actions.
Okay. Who seconded that? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? That's Councilmember Jones and Patton. Okay.
Thank you.
And so
Right.
that concludes
Thank you.
my report.
Now you're concluded.
Yes, thank you, staff.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for going back and doing that too, so we could make a decision today. I know that there, like I said, there is a sense of urgency to move this forward, so thank you. All right, now we have the report from the mayor and city council. I'm going to start with Councilmember Melton.
Councilmember Patton and I are having community office hours on May 13th, starting at 11 a.m. at Smooth Joe Coffee at 5321 Tin Roof Way. And other than that, no report.
Thank you. Councilmember Patton.
All right, well, that was one of mine, but I'll skip. I also want to thank Oaks and Spokes for helping host the District B Bike Ride this past weekend. I am not an avid cyclist, and they were very gracious teaching me how to shift gears on my bike and why I would do that. So I really appreciate their efforts, and I loved lifting up the Greenway system as an opportunity, not just for recreational riding, but as a way to get to amenities. So we stopped at, we moved from Horseshoe Farms Nature Preserve to Riverbend Park, and this was a beautiful new park in District B, and we had popsicles. People who decided to continue riding could have accessed a brewery, a bank, a coffee shop, childcare, and some other important amenities. So that was a great event. The other thing I wanted to do is just highlight that our friends in the General Assembly this week are experiencing the crossover deadline. If you don't know what that is, or folks watching at home don't know what that is, that's a deadline where any bill that's filed has to have passed one chamber in order to be considered for the biennium. So it kind of tells us what our colleagues at the General Assembly will be considering in the next year and a half. And so if you've never done so, this is the great week to contact your representatives and let them know which bills you want to make it through crossover, what you want to see them work on in the years ahead. So that's ncledge.gov/findyourlegislators. And you should definitely do your own research and pick bills that you would love to highlight. But a couple that I'd offer for your consideration are Senate Bill 402, which is a full repeal of the really damaging HB2 that North Carolina saw a few years ago. Senate Bill 215, which would allow extreme risk protection orders. House Bill 580, which expands day and employment opportunities for folks with disabilities, and House Bill 141, which would provide parental leave for state employees. There's lots of good bills out there just waiting to be heard and just sitting in their respective rules committees, so lift them up, reach out. I know our constituents can find us, but I encourage you to find your state legislators too. So, that's all I got.
Councilmember Black.
Peace, y'all. First, I want to say happy AAPI month. It's a great month to celebrate the legacy and the history that Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have brought to our country over the generations that they've been here. I also wanted to speak briefly about getting to talk to the Denver Star program out in Denver during our inner city trip last week. It was really informative, really great. They're doing some really amazing things, and I kind of want to implore everybody at this table to be thinking radically about the ways that we can level up our ACORNS program and make it more proactive for having better interventions for people experiencing mental health crises, and just diverting them away from having interactions with people who are already overworked and probably need a stronger sense of community building. And I also want to say that the Unity Days event is this May 25th at Dix Park from 6:30 to 8:30. So be sure to check that out if you guys are interested in talking about some of the issues that are going on around the city and just connecting with people and building a stronger sense of community. Then definitely check that out. And I believe that is it for me. Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I want to first thank all our teachers out there. Today is actually National Teacher Appreciation Day. So I'm a little biased. I'm married to one. But to all the teachers who are out there, thank you for your service. Times are difficult and hard, but you continue to get up and go to work. So thank you. Also, I want to give an early shout out to all the mothers, a happy Mother's Day. We won't meet again till after Mother's Day. So again, to all the mothers out there, I wish you an early happy Mother's Day. And the next District C meeting will be May 20th at 10 a.m. At 1214 East Lenore Street. Have a great day.
Thank you. Councilmember Jones?
Hi, guys. The first thing I want to talk about is our monthly District E meeting. This will be our 6th meeting. We'll be meeting at Briar Creek Community Center from 6:30 to 8:30 on May 10th. So that's next Wednesday. Love to see you guys out there, 6:30 to 8:30. And then the next thing I want to bring up is something that I'd emailed to council about that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention. I've been working with NC State students with a group called Consult Your Community. And I just want to give a little bit of information about them. They is a student-run organization that provides pro bono consulting services to small businesses in our Raleigh community. They strive to empower small business owners and drive local change through inclusive collaboration. I sat down with them. They've been working for a few years. They work with the city of Raleigh in helping businesses connect with the community. They do an expo where they bring all of there's about 70 different businesses that they work with together to network and to learn from each other. And they were looking for help with their expo in the coming years, and they were requesting $5,000. So I thought of our contingency funds, and I was wondering if that can be placed onto next meeting's agenda for a vote for $5,000 for the NC State Consult Your Community program. Is that possible? Okay, great. Thank you so much. That is all from me.
We'll put it on the agenda for our next meeting. Appreciate it. Councilmember Fort.
Thank you very much. It was actually a busy Saturday. So first, if you go over to the Village District, there's a new placard that the North Carolina Civil Rights Organization installed referencing sit-downs. It's over near the Fresh Market on the street side if you want to go over and take a look at it. Second, I want to congratulate the women of the Raleigh the Raleigh alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta for their community event that they held at Chavis on Saturday. I want to congratulate the folks at the Great Raleigh Cleanup that had a great fundraiser out on the farm. I tried to get my grandson a goat, but his mom told me no, so I had to leave the goat there. Wanted to congratulate the Friends of Oberlin Village for a successful barbecue and fundraiser. I think I missed you, Councilmember Harrison. I was already gone by the time you got there. And then also want to commend the park staff for a great plaque unveiling for Bruce Leitner at the Martin Luther King Memorial Gardens on Saturday as well. And I do have an announcement. Let me pull up my stuff to make sure I get it right. The joint task force of the city and county as it relates to homelessness will have our first meeting. We're ready to roll. So we've got all our members. Our first meeting is actually going to be on, I think it's May the 11th, whatever that Thursday is, at 10 o'clock from 10 to noon. And it's going to be at the Wake County Commons Building, 4011 Carya Drive, the Carya. Is open to the public. So if folks want to come in and listen to the meeting, that will be fine. And we will have a press release that will actually announce the members of the task force as well as all of our future meeting dates. So people will have all of them for the task force. And so that's all that I have.
Congratulations. That's a big step. Thank you. Councilmember Harrison.
Yeah, I just want to second Councilmember Patton on support of fabulous bills in the General Assembly. Feel free to contact your state legislator. You can also email me too. But I do want to just give a big shout out and thank you to the Raleigh Chamber of Commerce that organized the intercity visit to Denver the past week. Our entire council was able to go and learn some, really fabulous best practices and also see what we don't want in Raleigh. So that was just a super informative trip and very well organized. I want to call out a couple of the sessions. As Councilmember Black mentioned, getting to meet the leaders of the Denver STAR program was incredibly useful to help us think through how we grow and expand the ACORN unit over time. We had a fabulous session on affordable housing and learned so much about what they are doing there. Someday, maybe this year or soon, I'd love for Raleigh to have a City of Raleigh Affordable Housing Summit, some kind of one-day event where we bring all of our partners together to really learn from each other on this topic, because I think that's, again, what I was getting out of Denver, was learning from across the sectors, nonprofit, private, public, everybody who is caring so much about these topics. And then finally on transit and then their entrepreneurship culture. I did take what I called the light rail. I've been told it is commuter rail from the airport to downtown Denver. That was really cool. And we also were able to meet their coalition of chambers. So they have chambers that represent women-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses, Rocky Mountain Indian businesses, Hispanic businesses, LGBTQ businesses, and then also we met with leaders of the Denver Metro Chamber. And so just hearing from all of these different entrepreneurs and what they're doing to build this climate for startups, for small businesses, to support longtime businesses in the area, that was really special. So again, thank you to the Raleigh Chamber of Commerce for making that happen.
Okay, thank you. Still a lot of what I was going to say about the intercity visit. I'm really glad that the full council could be there. I think that's the first time since I've been on council that everybody attended. So we were all hearing the same things, having similar and different experiences, but some of the breakout sessions that you mentioned were great. So were the tours. I went on the tour to see this park that they built over a highway, Highway 70, and it was amazing what they did to reconnect this community and bring it back together. That was really cool. I think you went on the Rhino tour, which is
Wet and I was tired.
They also did a tour of the Arts District there, which is, I toured it on my own. It is really something to see and could be useful as we move forward with public art as well. But I also wanted to mention it was a real honor to be at the ceremony honoring Bruce Leitner and with Councilor Fort and Councilor Branch. And what made it special is we didn't wait until somebody passed away to honor them. We did it in public while they were there, while they could appreciate it, and while people could share the appreciation with him. And I want to thank our park staff for making that happen. Great job, and I want to say thank you. Last week, we also had the going away parties, I guess we would say, for Gail Smith, our long-term clerk, and Larry Jarvis, head of housing and neighborhoods. And, I just want to say to both of them, enjoy your retirement. I know Gail's probably watching.
She probably is.
Yes.
Probably outside. I saw her at the Color Purple on Sunday.
Yes, those were special as well. And then I have two more things, so bear with me. One is a case that the former city attorney was working on and had made inquiries for me about a property at 309 Dickens Drive. There was a complaint filed about building code. There is a wall that is breaking apart and falling into the neighbor's property. Code enforcement had issued an order to the property owner to take corrective action. However, nothing ever happened. So I would like to ask if the city would take further action in this building code case in accordance with UDO Section 11. 59C, and see if we can have the compliance officer look at this again and then bring this back to us for action if need be. I will send you this, bring over, Dottie, at the end, this documentation for you.
Yes, ma'am. We'd be glad to look into it and report back.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, wow, I don't know if you all heard these strange noises Friday night, but it was my husband and I screaming and jumping up and down when the Canes won the first round of the playoffs. So I'm sure the neighbors didn't appreciate it, but it was joyful. So now we go on to round 2, and we're playing the Devils. This is going to be really exciting. So I just want to say, go Canes. Now we have appointments.
Good afternoon. First on the agenda, we have Arts Commission, 1 regular vacancy. Councilmember Jones nominated Justin Parr, so that will be coming back on the next agenda. Board of Adjustment, 1 alternate vacancy, city appointee. Jeff Bandini received 2 votes, Terrence Ruth 1, Ryan Torrey 4, so that will be carried over to the next agenda. Environmental Advisory Board, 1 regular vacancy. Denzel Burnside received 7 votes, so would be appointed. Hispanic and Immigrant Affairs Board, 2 regular vacancies, professional category. Rasha Muhammad received 3 votes, Elvis Tanyi 6, so would be appointed. I did want to note, though, that Councilmember Jones nominated Katie Crisp. It's up to you how you want to proceed, but I will mention that, let's see. Oh, never mind. It's up to you how you want to proceed. Elvis Tanyi did receive 6 votes.
Councilmember Melton.
I was gonna say, it looks like we've got 2 vacancies, so I think Elvis should take a spot because they got 6, and then that would leave 2 nominees for the remaining seats.
Oh, right. It'll be carried over to the next agenda. I'm sorry. When Katie Crisp was on the ballot for the other. Yeah, so the next one, it kind of ties together. The next one, the 1 alternate vacancy professional category, Carol Bruno Montañez received 5 and Katie Crisp 2. So that would take care of that vacancy. So in order for Miss Crisp to not drop off, she could be, I think that was your intent, was for her to show up under the remaining vacancy for the regular category. Is that correct? Okay.
Either way, we had 2 people get enough votes, so then there'll be 2 pending on the other category.
Right. So we'll have 1 regular vacancy, and Rasha Muhammad and Katie Crisp will appear, and then the alternate vacancy that was taken care of.
So, question, not to make this even more complicated,
Mm-hmm.
we just approved an alternate slot. And historically, when we have an alternate for a position, that person's elevated to a regular slot.
That's right.
So if that's the case, then that means the only slot left would be an alternate slot.
Right.
I said I didn't want to complicate it anymore, but
I know there's a lot going on here. Yes. So
the alternate moves
yeah.
up to the permanent position that leaves a vacancy for the alternate slot.
Right. Okay. Human Relations Commission, 1 alternate vacancy. Councilmember Jones nominated Kristen Havlick, so that will return. Parks, Recreation, and Greenway Advisory Board, 1 regular vacancy. Gregory Etheridge received 6 votes. I will note that Councilmember Jones nominated Vanita Shaw. We do have, so it's up to you how you want to proceed. However, later on this agenda, I will be announcing another Parks vacancy due to a resignation, so it could be a good place to add her if that's how you want to proceed. Okay. So Mr. Etheridge will be reappointed for this one, and we can pull Vanita Shaw down. Raleigh Convention and Performing Arts Center Authority, 2 vacancies. Pete Byers received 4 votes, Jasmine Kilpatrick 3, Sharat Nagaraj 5, and Amanda Wise 2. So Sharat Nagaraj would be appointed, and then the remaining vacancy would appear on the next ballot with the 3 remaining individuals. Raleigh Historic Development Commission, 1 regular vacancy. No nominations. You guys might have read an email from the chair this morning that the RHDC nominating committee will be submitting recommendations for your consideration on the next agenda. Raleigh Transit Authority, 1 alternate vacancy. Martha Brock received 0 votes. Lee Chun Young received 2. Councilmember Branch nominated Tom Simon, and Councilmembers Melton, Harrison, and Jones nominated Terrence Ruth. So that will, Mr. Ruth will actually be showing up under Raleigh Transit Authority and Board of Adjustment on the next ballot because he's still an existing nominee earlier on the agenda. So this vacancy and the 4 names will show up on the next ballot.
Is it your intention to keep him on both?
No, is it okay? If we can possibly remove him from the Board of Adjustment?
Yeah, if it's up to the council, if you guys want to remove him from the Board of Adjustment, that's fine.
Second. Do we have to vote on that? Is that what we're doing?
Do we need a vote?
I think just without objection, we can remove him, and that was Councilmember Jones's nomination in the first place, so she can just withdraw him from Board of Adjustment. Okay, where was I? Okay, Stormwater Management Advisory Commission, Josh Dalton received 6 votes, so would be appointed. Nominations, Board of Adjustment, just a reminder about that county vacancy. The individual must reside within the ETJ, and the county would appreciate recommendations. Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, 1 regular vacancy. The term of Nicholas Neptune is expiring, and he would like to be considered for reappointment.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that was seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. Is that,
You can have it, yeah.
It doesn't matter.
I'm
Don't-
just
you-
trying to figure
you
it
can
out
give it
so
to
I can
Corey,
tell
it's
the clerk.
fine.
Okay.
Human Relations Commission, 1 regular vacancy. The term of Chairperson Byron Laws is expiring. He would like to be considered for reappointment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's unanimous.
Next is Parks, Recreation, and Greenway Advisory Board, 1 regular vacancy. This goes back to what we discussed earlier. I will move Vanita Shaw as Councilmember Jones's nomination under this vacancy. Police Advisory Board, 1 regular vacancy, LGBTQ representative, Jeremy Roca is expiring. He would like to be considered for reappointment.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that was unanimous, clerk.
Police Advisory Board, 1 regular vacancy at-large position. At-large member Genevieve Sims is expiring. She does not wish to be considered for reappointment, so consistent with past practice, we recommend elevating the longest-serving alternate, which is Diane Bellamy, to a regular slot when Ms. Sims' term expires, and declare an alternate vacancy.
So moved.
Okay, I'll second you then. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that was unanimous.
Can I just say something, Mayor?
Yes.
Ms. Sims, she was the original chair of this police advisory board. She helped navigate the board from its creation into the role that they're serving now, and she has done an exceptional job. And
She has.
we are going to have a giant hole on this commission when she decides to take some time off. So let's all be very considerate and thoughtful about who we can appoint. She's had such a great collaborative, calming, and just good management as chair. And so let's find someone good, because she was fantastic.
She did an outstanding job.
Next, we have Raleigh Transit Authority, 1 regular vacancy. I emailed you all about this. Ms. Edmondson had initially wanted to be considered, however, she has since changed her mind over the weekend. So consistent with past practice, I would recommend elevating the longest-serving alternate, which is Bryce Connors. Didn't make it into the agenda packet since it was after it was published. However, I did share that with you, and he has attended 7 out of 8 meetings. So if you guys would like to elevate him, that can come back as an alternate vacancy.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye. And so now we have 2 openings we have the 1 alternate vacancy that we can't seem to fill, and then now this new one.
Right. And that would be 4 names for consideration and 2 alternate vacancies.
Okay. I'd also like to nominate Leo Suarez. He completed the application. Now we have 5 for 2, but we'll figure it out.
Okay? And that is all. That is all for this section.
Okay, next we have the report and recommendation of the city attorney.
No report.
And welcome, Dottie. It's great to have you back.
Thank you. We were missing Robin. This is my first day. I'm honored to be with you.
Thank you. Report and recommendation of the city clerk.
Couple of sets of minutes for consideration of approval.
Move for approval of minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that was unanimous, and we do not have a closed session today, correct?
That's
Okay.
correct. No closed session.
Okay, so we meet back here at 7 o'clock. We're going to start with a very fun proclamation, so be ready. And then I'm sure we'll be here for a while. So anyhow, thank you. We now are adjourned.